Sean, great to see you as always. So let's just touch on those attacks I just mentioned, Bryansk, Belgorod, that sort of area.
As you say, two villages near the Bryansk region. The Bryansk is well north, but the region actually is very close to the Ukraine border. They came under fire last night, but also over the last, for the second time in the last 10 days, the Belgorod district came under sustained fire. We understand that 2 people were killed. Shebekino, it was also under attack there, and that led to about 2,500 people having to be evacuated from that village. Now traditionally these are, they're not a significant tactical issue for Russia to deal with, but strategically it's creating a real problem because there's a long border here. Does Russia prioritise its limited resources with protecting its borders, or does it move its people to the front line with the war with Ukraine, knowing there's a counteroffensive coming on? That's creating a real problem for Russia at the moment.
And touch on the latest that we know about the missile attacks from Russia to Kiev in particular.
Yeah, Kyiv's an interesting one because, again, relentless waves of attacks. There's been 30, a combination of missile and drone attacks over the last 24 hours. As ever, the drones, slow speed, Ukraine seem to be on top of those. The cruise missiles, or the ballistic missiles, are a lot more difficult for Kyiv to handle. But the multi-layer defence, including Patriot missile systems shown here, does seem to be taking out most, if not all, of the missiles. Inevitably, some of the debris falls down. That causes fires and, unfortunately, some casualties as well. But at the moment, the defensive umbrella seems to be holding up.
I mean, given that it is holding up and other factors, why do you think Russia continues to try and target Kiev?
From a military perspective, it doesn't seem to make sense because what Russia, rather than wasting its limited resources on a civilian target, it should actually be targeting Ukraine's preparations for its spring offensive. There seem to be 2 reasons for why they're doing that. First of all, the Ukraine preparations are likely mobile forces and they're quite well hidden. So to do that, you need time-sensitive target capability, which is satellites looking down, analysts looking at it, deciding what you're going to use to prosecute the target and then attacking the target. That loop requires teamwork and coordination. That is not something that Russia is particularly effective at doing at all. The second reason there seems to be that the medieval war aims were to kill the opponent's army and then take their capital. Putin's done exactly this. He's been fighting in the cities and actually now, particularly Bakhmut, but is also now raining hell on Kyiv. But the challenge is he is not a military guy, and therefore he's not keeping a ruthless focus on the military aims. In World War II, there's an analogy here that when Germany was trying to invade Britain, at the time they needed to defeat the Royal Air Force. They took the Royal Air Force to the sword, and literally, the Battle of Britain, the Royal Air Force was on its knees. But for some reason, Hitler changed tack then. He suddenly, because it turns out a city in Germany was bombed, in anger, he turned the attention of the Luftwaffe onto bombing London. Now, that gave the Royal Air Force a breather. Yes, it was bad for Londoners, but didn't actually change the outcome of the war. And what we're actually seeing, I think, is a similar challenge for President Putin. He is not focused on the objectives of the war. He's angry over President Zelensky's temerity in attacking the Kremlin and attacking across the border. And it's just demonstrating another weakness of the Russian military machine.